We're going to look at locking and unlocking objects in Rhino. The reason you want to lock your objects while you're working is it still allows you to reference the part visually while you're working without accidentally selecting it, and your object snaps will still work. The two places to access the lock commands are up here under the Edit, Visibility, and you can see the lock commands right here, or right on the main toolbar, you see this padlock icon here. If I hold down and expand this toolbar, you can see there are 5 options here. I'll just go ahead and pull this toolbar off so we have access to it while we're looking at this. The first option is lock. The second is unlock. Then we have unlock selected objects. We have invert selection and lock objects. And we have swap locked and unlocked objects. You'll find you probably don't use this unlocked objects icon too much, since if you look at the locked objects icon, you can left mouse click to lock or right mouse click to unlock the objects. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll just left click on lock objects, and the command line is asking us to select objects to lock. I'll just go ahead and select a few items here. Now anytime Rhino is asking you to select objects, and you're going to select multiple objects, you don't need to hold down the Shift key like you typically do to select multiple objects. You can just go ahead and click on the items and it will add them. If you've added too many items or you've added a wrong item, if you hold down the Control key and then click on that object, it will be removed. As soon as I have the object selected I'd like to lock, I'll just go ahead and hit the Space key to apply the command. And remember again, you can hit Space, Enter, or right mouse. All 3 of those will do the same thing. And you can see instantly I now have 3 dark grayed objects, and dark gray is the default lock color. You can see I can no longer click on those items to select them. But as I mentioned, if I try to draw a line, I have my object snaps on. You can still snap to the locked items. The way we go about unlocking these is we can click on Unlock Objects, or just right click on this icon. And as you see, they change from the dark gray to show that they are no longer locked. Unlock Selected is a very handy feature, and the way we go about using this is let's select 3 objects we'd like to lock. So I have the object selected, and then I can click Lock. So those are locked. If we click on this, everything that is currently unlocked disappears, and the only thing on the screen is the locked objects. So now I can go ahead and select whatever I would like to unlock. Let's say in this case, it's going to be this cube, and then just hit Enter. As soon as I hit Enter, the screen returns to normal. Everything that is unlocked currently shows up, and the locked items are still there in dark gray. If I apply the command again, there you can see the items that are currently locked. I'll click on this one to select it, hit Enter, and now you can see that item is unlocked, and this curve is currently the only item that is locked. This icon, the invert selection and lock objects, can be quite handy if you have very complex scenes or you have data that is very close together. Sometimes it's very difficult to select all the parts that you might want to lock. So what this allows you to do is to select a couple of objects that are perhaps a little easier to grab in your scene, and then press this button. It will actually invert the selection and lock the newly selected objects. So let me just go ahead and click on this and you can see what I mean. So you saw a brief flash as these became selected and then those became locked. Let me undo that and redo that again. This time I'll select these. So now when I press this button, these 3 parts will become selected and then lock. This icon allows you to swap your locked and unlocked objects. And it can be quite handy if you have a lot of things you need to lock and unlock at one time. Let me just go ahead and click this. And you can see immediately everything that was locked became unlocked and everything that wasn't locked became locked. Let me just click that again. So you can see that works quite nicely. As I mentioned when we first started looking at this, the default locked color is this dark gray. I personally don't like to work with it this way. And if you'd like to customize how your locked items appear, it's really quite simple. We simply click on this Rhino Options icon, and we go to Appearance, colors. And you can see locked objects are set to a dark gray. I can just click on this and change it to any color I'd like. I'm just going to make it kind of a warmish blue. Click OK. And as you see behind the window, the locked items have updated themselves to sort of a monochromatic blue color. We can go one step further, which I usually do. Under Advanced Settings, if I open up this menu, select Objects, you can see it says Locked Objects. Locked Object Use is by default set to Use Application Settings, and that's just telling it to use the same color I just changed to up in the Color menu. What I always change is the Locked Object Appearance. By default, locked objects appear solid. I like them to appear transparent, so I can click on that, and I might make that transparency, say, a 50%. Go ahead and hit OK. So now my locked object is transparent, and I like this because when I'm working, as I said, a lot of times your scenes can get complex, and if you have a lot of locked items, it allows you to see through those parts while you're working. You can see if I'm drawing and snapping to a part over here. If I didn't have this set to transparent, I wouldn't be able to see through the object to be able to draw a line coming off of that part. And as I said, it can just be quite helpful as your scenes become more and more complex. And that concludes our look at Rhino's locked objects.